Family, how is everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining us on another edition of the RAM Book Club, Resurgence of the African Mind, where we seek to liberate African minds by reading one unit of work at a time. Family, you all know that we are reading The Heavy Hitter, the Monster, Blueprint for Black Power by Baba Amos Wilson. Family, we are almost finished. Can you believe this is all that's left?
Yes!
This is an accomplishment. I am proud. Family, my name is Lady La Poete Speaks. You can get the links to join the panel or to listen in the discussion by going to ladylapoetespeaks.com. Click on the Blueprint for Black Power thread, and then you just scroll down to the appropriate chapter. Family, I am the author of Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1, available at ladylapoetespeaks.com and available on Kindle at amazon.com. Okay, we're going to let the panel introduce themselves. Peace and love.
All right, peace and love, family. My name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Dr. Oya. You know, it feels funny saying that, sis, but I'm going to keep it up. Also known as Dr. Oya Maat. I am the co-founder of Ed Anime Productions, executive producer of Meltrek. Let me hold up Meltrek for you. Okay, so here's Meltrek. Meltrek is an animated series that teaches children history from an African-centered perspective. So we have available Meltrek Episode 1, Exploring Ancient Africa, and Meltrek Episode 2, Exploring the Pre-Columbian Americas. We also have a coloring book that's available, and we have a storybook that we just released. And Sister Alima, oh my God, I try to show images, but beautiful book. I need to send you and the babies a copy, Sister
Yeah,
Alima.
I've been trying to order mine. You talking about I'm going to send it.
No. Yeah, I'm gonna send. Yeah, I need to send it.
Order my site by now and had it.
No, we're shipping out tomorrow, so I'll get your address and send you one.
Oh,
I want
okay, it's not out. So you're releasing it tomorrow, sis?
Oh no, it's been out for a few weeks, but we do like a bulk shipment each week, and so what I'll do is just ship you out a copy tomorrow, so you and the babies will have it.
Okay.
But I think you'll be quite pleased. I mean, look at the images. I mean, this is a beautiful book, and I say that it's a must-have for all children. Okay, and you can visit edanimeproductions.com to purchase your copy. So let me show a few more things before we get started or before I pass the mic. So this is Lily La Poete Speaks. This is her website. Let me go back to the home page. The Meltrek here from Lily La Poete Speaks. You can also get a great children's book entitled Aaron Knows About Africa, or Aaron Learns About Africa. Wonderful book. My son Jalen actually has the book. Beautiful book. So come here, support the marketplace. The products that I just showed you, the Meltrek products that I just showed you, can be obtained from Ed Anime Productions as well. You can go right here to the shop.
Yes, do the knowledge, represent.
Yes, you can go right here to the shop and grab, you know, the Meltrek DVDs, coloring books, storybooks, and we also have digital downloads available. So if you don't care for DVDs, we have it in digital download format. We're also selling. We've partnered with Kid Positive, Tell Me Who I Am, and so we also sell his coloring book and the DVD on the website. All right. Other products that you need to have in your possession: Freedom Paper Company. Freedom Paper Company is a Black owned and operated company that sells. They sell bathroom tissue. They sell cleaning supplies. They sell, look at this, paper towels. Look at all this. Trash can liners, facial tissue. Look at this, trash can liners, heavy duty. They sell rubber gloves. Okay, and they are based in Baltimore City. I actually ordered a shipment from them a couple of weeks ago, and I you know, my family, we put up and we all go and we get boxes of toilet paper and paper towels from them like every 3 months. And so Freedom Paper Company is a Black owned and operated company. Please support family. Also, True Laundry Detergent. You can go to thetrueproducts.com. Get your laundry detergent, family. We have our own laundry detergent now. This is what I use. I've been using this since last year. The True Laundry Detergent is made with organic products or they say organic ingredients. Very good detergent. So visit thetrueproducts.com to get your supply of True. Abjuwear. Look at this, sneakers.
Yes.
We have Abjuwear. Brother Cat from the Honor Raw Squad. He has his own sneaker line. Okay, so you can visit abjuwear.com to check out his sneakers. I have the pair that he shows on the front page, and I have the sandals. So I have both. I have the slippers and I have the shoes. Okay, very comfortable shoes, quality products. Look at this. He also has polo shirts. He has other shoes available. Look at this. All right, family. So support. We got to support ourselves. We got to support each other. Also, pantherwear.com. Go to Pantherwear. Get your Pantherwear. I have a pair of these shoes as well. So Pantherwear, you have hats, you have shirts, you have tennis shoes. Look at this. All right. Tennis shoes. All right. Now, these are all Black owned and operated companies that you should be familiar with. And the last company that I want to mention is Tubman Batteries. I actually ordered my pack. I have a pack. Here it is. We make our own batteries now, family. And look at what they named the company after one of our great ancestors. Look at this, Tubman Battery. It says, we cannot stop now, supercharger. All right, so these are rechargeable batteries. I ordered a pack and I'm now using Tubman batteries. So it's at a point, Sister Alima, where we have no excuses. Like I remember you and I, that was one of our biggest criticisms maybe a year or two ago. We were talking about Black folks and businesses and how we don't create businesses or we don't create products that we can use in our everyday lives. Okay. And now we have them. You have them. We have toilet paper, we have paper towels, we have trash can liners, you have videos, you have books, you have batteries, you have laundry detergent. So it's no excuse at this point, why we shouldn't be supporting each other. And I also meant to share the link to Harbor Bank. You got Harbor Bank, you got Citibank down in Atlanta. Sister Alima told me that there are over 38 Black-owned banks. So who are you banking with, family? Are you banking with, a Black-owned and operated bank? Or are you banking with a white-owned and controlled financial institution? And if it's the latter, then you don't understand how banks are supposed to function, okay? And if you understood that, then your money would be in a Black operated bank. And and even if your primary account is not with a Black-owned and operated bank, at least open up a secondary account, a savings or something that you put inside of a Black-owned and operated financial institution. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic. I just wanted to share some links with you guys who are interested in supporting Black-owned and operated businesses. Brother Knowledge Born, go ahead and introduce yourself, King.
Peace, love, Black power. I was hoping that I wasn't next, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you would go to Brother Travis because it's hard to follow Dr. Maat, you know what I mean? So I definitely wanted to commend you and Sister Alima for your diligence, due diligence, your consistency, your compassion, your care, and your honor in regards to facilitating the process by which the resurgence of the African mind can be actualized. It could go from theory to reality.
That's right.
So I wanted to commend you both on your dedication and your consistency, with this platform and giving this information to our people in a way that's very palatable and in a way that's very hardline, very strong. No cut on it. And also, I want to commend you both publicly for your works as entrepreneurs. Strong African women who have strong African families and raising up children to be self-sufficient and not interdependent on any of our enemies, those bloodsuckers out here who are waiting to capitalize off the destruction of our children. So I definitely wanted to commend you both publicly and, urge the family to support your laudable endeavors and support African people who are in the best interest of African future. That's in families, that's in people coming together, for that common cause of actualizing, going from the dream to actualization. So love and honor to you both. for your endeavors, and nothing but the best for you and success for you and your families in the future. So
I
that's my intro. You understand what I'm saying?
Appreciate you, brother. That means a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely, brother. I appreciate your words. He's so good with words, Sister Alima, isn't he? He is. Told him you gotta watch a man with a sweet tongue.
I get it. I get it from my mama. Get it from my mama.
He probably a almost shoon.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Almost shoon.
Because he's very loving. He cares about the people. And he's got that sensual side.
So that's almost shoon. Those are the attributes of almost shoon.
Just a couple. She got so many.
Yeah,
I'm almost Getty.
You're almost what?
Of Getty. Papa Getty.
What's that, Sister Alima? You know what? You know what? Brother Chaos.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it is 401. I don't know all of them.
Right, I about to say, I heard it is a lot. And I'm familiar with probably 3. This brother Chaos. Brother Chaos, going once, going twice.
Moving on, family. All right, family. You know, last week we was
Brother Travis is going.
Brother Travis unjoined us. Brother Travis.
Oh, peace, family. I'm gonna keep it short because I want to get into this topic that's hot tonight. And again, I'm from out of Detroit here, ready to get started. This is a powerful research research team and books that we're going to be reading, family. I mean, we're going to be up there with PhD information. You know what I mean? It's just it's a powerful group of people with, you know, different mindsets, but the same objective. And I just can't wait to get started tonight. Peace, family.
All right, now. All right, family. Last week, I know we got chapter. Okay. All right. Brother Chaos, right. You know, he's always late. He's still on CP time. We working with the brother. We trying to get him on African time. He's still on. And introduce himself, Brother Chaos.
Good evening again, beautiful Black people. And like I'm here tonight for another great session on the continual of the Blueprint for Black Power, written by Dr. Amos Wilson, released in 1998. This is 2018. Now we're looking at 20 years since the book was been released. Much has changed, but the same concepts apply that will still apply in regards to building a nationhood, what can be found in this beautiful book, The Blueprint of Black Power. Yeah. And I'm just sitting back and enjoying to hope to see what else could bring forth in tonight's discussion.
All right now. All right, brother. So family, last week, chapter 26, Black-owned banks. We talked about creators of wealth, talked about creating money. We talked about historical overview of Black-owned banks, problems of investments, the possibilities of Black community banking, and much more. Family, this week we are starting with chapter 27, Financing Black Economic Development. I don't know about you, family, but I really enjoyed this chapter. Yeah. A lot of good information in there and a lot of good suggestions that I think that we really should implement. So without any further ado, let's kick it off. I didn't have anything on page 704. Did you, Queen?
No, just the there was nothing. It was just kind of like I did have 2 sentences highlighted when he says in the context of the African American community, and he was talking about the expansion of money supplies, but that's nothing. It's nothing, sis. Okay. So we can go in and continue.
705. Towards the end of the first paragraph, the money supply. The money supply refers to the sum of currency outside the banking system, i.e. in our own pockets, plus the total of demand deposits, e.g. checking and saving accounts. Martin Mayer explains expansion of the money supply thusly. Each time a bank creates a deposit by making the loan, it sets in motion a chain of money creation. The borrower writes checks on his account. The proceeds of those checks are deposited at other banks. The other banks make loans. The borrowers at other banks write checks on their accounts. Still, other banks enter new deposits on the proceeds of those checks, and so on. A bank cannot safely lend the entire proceeds of its deposit and cannot legally do so in the U.S., where all bank supervisory agencies except the state of Illinois set reserve requirements. So the quantity of new money created diminishes at each stop as the image diminishes in the mirrors. But unless somebody breaks the chain by taking out currency, the banks will keep creating deposits, creating new quantities of M. M at the bottom, it says, it just says the bankers, actually. It says M, I don't know what that is. If the retained reserves are 20%, a $100 deposit of new money dug out of South African gold fields printed by a government, imported from abroad, can produce a chain of 80, 64, 5120, 40, 96, etc., to a total of $400. So it's basically just saying that when people putting money in the banks creates more money for the banks to give out. It's in essence what they're saying. So they create money. So like when people used to say money comes out of thin air, like it literally actually kind of does. It kind of does. Because they can create a loan off of one amount, but then you kind of double the amount. So you know what I mean? You're kind of giving away some money that's not really there, in essence. Like it's there, but it's not really there. I don't know. It's kind of
right. No, it's true. That's true. And we provided them with the formula at in one of the previous discussions how banks are able to loan out what's called the access reserves.
Right.
And sometimes the access reserves is they don't have that amount on hand. It's just what they call the access. So like you said, it's there, but it's not there.
Yeah, right.
And they use that to create, to create money.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a very interesting conversation that y'all had in regards to that. And the parallel was it used to be regulated when it was backed by gold.
Yes, yes.
And if you look at that gold standard, you existed in a stable economy, so you weren't doing things just risk. But now with this 28% income tax bracket that we live in, there's less regulation on what's being produced. You see what I'm saying? So
21%.
Huh?
It's 21, not 20.
Oh, it's 21%, brother?
Yeah.
What?
They cut it from 35 to 20.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I guess it depends on where you are. You see what I'm saying? So just in regards to, the capitalist society and how it works, you see what I'm saying? That it becomes a situation where they could care less about what's being produced as long as they get a capital gain off of it. So, the banks do that and work in tandem with that, with projections based off of how much, they think is going to come in. So basically, it's projected return on investment. So.
Exactly. It's like the stock market. Exactly. Okay, family, checks are a form of money. Therefore, an increased amount of loanable funds thus become available for businesses and consumer borrowing. Oh, I just skipped the whole line. Checks are a form of money. As the Black community increases the volume of its banks and financial institutional reserves, it stimulates credit expansion, i.e. checking accounts. Therefore, an increased amount of loanable funds thus becomes available for business and consumer borrowing. As business activity picks up, firms increase hiring and unemployment rates fall. One of the ways banks may more directly engage in economic development of their communities is to found and organize or support community development banks. Community development banks are financial institutions which provide capital for the business and infrastructural development of their communities, designed to aid depressed areas, including community credit unions and revolving loan funds. So Baba's going to get in deep into these, into the community development banks a little bit later, family. One of the examples that he gives is the South Shore Bank in Chicago, and it helped to turn around a declining neighborhood by financing a revitalization plan. Unlike more conventional banks, South Shore Bank specializes in providing loans to fledgling minority entrepreneurs to buy and renovate small apartment buildings in poor Chicago communities, as an approach shunned by many other banks. And you know that most banks would never do that, family, invest in lower income communities, because of course they consider that to be a high risk investment. Moving on, the bank and its affiliates have financed the rehabilitation of about 30% of the 25,000 apartments in South Shore. Yet the bank has been consistently profitable as well, family. They said that the South Shore Bank has achieved these ends based on its willingness to make loans as much more on character as on collateral. So, they focus more on that person, so can that particular person pay on a more individual basis, as opposed to looking at, well, if you don't pay, what do you have that I can take from you? Because in essence, collateral is. You know, they just want to know what can they take away if you can't pay this money. Anybody want to add anything before we move on, family?
Yes, sis, you were saying that it was unique about South Shore Bank. You said is that it's specialized in providing you loans to people who are high risk, right? And but I just want to point out at the top or at the middle of page 707 that Baba tells us that these banks, it says they also have surprisingly low loan losses. So even though these people are high risk, it says that less than 1% of all loans, and this is based on information supplied by the National Association of Community Development Loan Funds, a trade group representing 42 of the nonprofit funds. So it said that they defaulted, or people defaulted on less than 1% of the loans. I think to be exact, it says 0.67% of the loans they defaulted on. You know, so basically they have a 99% success rate. So even though these people are high risk, they paid their debt. They paid it. You know, so I just wanted to point that out because a lot of people think when you're high risk that it's a high probability that you'll lose your money, and maybe so. But this bank, I mean, obviously their formula works. When you said they were willing to make loans based on character instead of collateral. Obviously, that formula, whatever they've been utilizing at South Shore Bank, it works because 1% of their loans were defaulted on.
That's right, sis.
It works.
Well, I have one important question, and I'm not sure this is related to what has been said right now. Yeah, are y'all familiar when Ben Carson was sitting in front of a committee about Dove? Did y'all watch that?
Dove
Is this something recent, brother?
Yes, like a few days ago. And a Caucasoid lady sit there and asked Ben Carson, because he is in charge of Dove in regards to housing, about why the situation going on, why he extended it to 2020 in regards to matters of getting people like to get their homes and stuff, or the issue about discrimination of housing. The lady read about back in 1968 till now, it said only 1/6 of Black people had wealth in regards, I guess, home ownership, and now it went from 1/6 to 1/10. So in conclusion, and probably got to watch it now. Probably it's on my page, but it said that when we talk about people we're progressing, she said in herself, a white woman said herself that Black people going backwards after civil rights in regards to wealth, and his excuse said that about the income, about they're trying to save money through his rhetoric. But she said it's not something about money, it's about the law. It's the law states about what you're supposed to be doing. So now I'm thinking in regards to power, or just illusion of power, in regards to, if people don't really look at it, analyze it properly, that say, they play games, but they put people in position to keep people in directions, in circles, in regards to what is they file said what they're supposed to be doing, but they don't have to execute because it goes back to power again. They pick and choose who gets it or don't get it. For what that little conference they had, that 8-minute clip. I just want to share that. I mean, you had to watch to get more clarity, but that's what I got when I watched it. When he was sitting there. And I know they used good old Ben as a scapegoat so that people don't know that if anything happened, it was on his, that they could point the fingers on him. No, he volunteered to take that job. No matter who gave him a lot of money. Clash. So, that's all I just want to bring to your attention.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, brother. Well, we appreciate your your input. I haven't watched the Ben Carson footage, but I'll definitely be sure to check that out. Okay, so back to community development banks.
Yes.
We were just saying how Sister Alima had read that community development banks are financial institutions that provide capital for the businesses and infrastructural development of their communities. And typically these community development banks will lend personal and business loans to customers that would be considered high risk to traditional banks, okay? And, given some data that was supplied provided to us by the National Association of Community Development Loan Funds, we know that typically they have a low rate of, I guess, default loans or loans default. All right. So at the bottom, it says, from the foregoing discussion, we can, it says divine. I think that's a misspelling, Sister Alima. A number of, I think he said we can provide. I think that's what it's supposed to say. Yeah. Provide a number of directions for the development of community development banks and loan funds from within the African American community itself. As we suggested in the prior section dealing with the institutional Black church, individual churches, church association, professional organizations, and other organized groups, either together or separately, can fund development banks or loan funds designed to make or facilitate loans of various sizes. It is possible for such banks or funds to rely on small business administration guarantees to upstarting Black-owned businesses and economic development projects. And he's right, Sister Lena. When I was reading this chapter, I couldn't help but to think, damn, you know, we have all of these mega churches, but you could get your own bank. You can actually start your own credit union.
Why don't they?
I'm not sure. I believe, and don't quote me. I mean, I guess someone could probably.
There's a few of them that have some banks.
Yeah, Fred Price did.
Yeah,
that's
true.
But in general, they do not.
Right.
They don't. They'll spend like $250,000, $300,000 to build a huge church, or $1 million mega church. But then you go put your money from your collections in a white bank.
In a white bank.
Millions of dollars in that church that you literally have to open up your own bank.
And in Baltimore City, I can't help but to think of two churches, two mega churches, one under the leadership of Jamal Bryant. He was on that reality TV show about pastors. I forgot the name of it, but it was a reality TV show that involved pastors. I didn't watch it. I can't even tell you the name, but I heard that he was on the show. But he has a mega church in Baltimore called New Psalmist Baptist Church. And then not New Psalmist, oh my gosh, Empowerment Temple. And isn't that funny? The name of his church is called Empowerment Temple. And he's not empowering any goddamn body. But anyway, then you have another church, under the leadership of Dr. Walter Scott Thomas. His church is called New Psalmist Baptist Church. And I remember several years ago, he used to brag about having 5,000 members. And I'm talking about you have lawyers, doctors, engineers, politicians, I mean, who go to this church, Sister Alima, and it is no reason why they don't have a bank, or it's no reason why the citizens there or the members there aren't encouraged to put their money in this bank that they own and control. You have over 5,000 members.
A lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Can you imagine how much they collect on a Sunday?
Exactly, sis. Imagine how much assets is sitting right there in that church, just being utilized by other races.
Absolutely.
Then they said that to establish one of those banks doesn't require to have at least 1,000 people to consent to give to establish a bank.
I'm not sure because I've never looked into
the number of people. If you have more than 5,000 people, that's way more than enough to have
not really a bank.
One bank, maybe multiple banks.
Baba is talking about the community. He's talking about the community development. Well, the community development banks. Yeah, it is.
I see.
But in essence,
and this is what I remember.
Okay. And I mean, what he's explained from what we read in the chapter, we weren't given any specifics on how many people.
Yeah, and
started. Where we at? Sis? 708.
Right. Yeah, I'm good. I can continue. So he's talking now. He goes into credit unions, okay, and he's talking to you about. Well, he teaches us about credit unions and how credit unions operate. And I did find out, Sister Alima, by reading, of course, this chapter, that it's easier to start like a credit union, than a bank. I believe in order to start a bank, you have to show them that you have like $4 million. I don't know if that's in liquid or like assets, right. But you have to have, I believe it's a minimum of $4 million. Or $5 million to start a bank. Whereas with credit unions, I heard that you can start them with little to no money.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, going on to the next section, credit unions. He says that the credit union movement, a prime example of cooperative economics. And see, when I looked at this, I'm thinking about, I know some folks They don't like to celebrate Kwanzaa, and they say Kwanzaa isn't a traditional African, holiday, i.e. that is not celebrated on the continent. But I love the principles that Kwanzaa preaches. I love the principles, and one of the principles is cooperative economics. And he's saying here that the credit union is a prime example of cooperative economics. Okay, so he says total credit union membership has increased, since 1985. Its total membership at the end of 1992 amounted to 64.3 million members. We got to remember, y'all, that this book was published 20 years ago. He says that this rapid growth in both membership and assets is occurring at the same time banks and savings and loans are retrenching and shrinking. Compared with the 1.9% growth for commercial banks and shrinkage of 9.7% of saving for the savings and loans, the assets of the nation's credit unions grew by over 10% in 1992. Also in 1992, credit union lending expanded by 1.7%, compared with the contraction of 1.4% for the banks and 11.7% for the savings loans. Okay, so he's talking about credit unions, and there's a lot of benefits to belonging to a credit union. A lot of benefits to belonging to a credit union. I know that one of the benefits is that I believe Sister Alima can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know she expressed that she belongs to a credit union, but they have a higher approval rate than commercial banks, and they have lower interest rates, I was told.
That's true.
So yeah, lower interest rates and also higher approval rates. And it's
cheaper to open up an account. Sometimes you can open up an account with like only $5, or some of them are free to open up.
So you say cheaper? Let me write that down.
Yeah, it's cheaper to open the account, and typically the yearly maintenance fees are like next to nothing, if any at all.
Okay, so lower maintenance fees.
I was noticing though, speaking of opening up accounts, I think it is right here, or maybe on page 709, but Baba says something about that, he was talking about the credit unions. I think he also did mention that they could be as little as $5, but then he said some of them are as high as $200 to $500. And I was just curious, is anyone familiar with that? Like, have you heard of a bank requiring that much money to open an account? Like, I've never heard of that. I'm pretty sure, I know that business accounts, you have to have a certain amount of money to open them, which makes sense, but just a regular checking, no. I never heard an account amount that high. $200?
Either, sis. I read that also. I was looking at it. I was like $200 to $500 minimum to open.
At a bank or a credit union?
He was saying at a bank.
At a bank. Even a credit union is cheaper. So definitely it's not at a credit union. It's at a bank. I never heard of that before.
Well, they have some of them interest yielding money marketing accounts and things like that, where they have that type of initial. If you have those type of funds to open an account, that kind of account.
Checking. He's not
a regular checking.
Talking about that specifically. He would have said that specifically. He's just talking about a checking account, and I'm trying to figure out what regular ass checking account they talking about. You gotta have $200 and you can open it right up. Like what?
That's one of them Kirk Franklin accounts. One of them Pastor Pork Chop Sunday account.
Look, when I read it, Sister Alima, I was like, I never heard of that, but all right, Bob.
But they said, well, maybe it's different state to state.
Right, because I've never heard of that. And like you said, Sister Alima, for a business account, like I'm with Harbor Bank, for us to open up the account, we had to give them $100.
Right, for a business account, I get that, but a regular checking?
Yeah, I never heard of that. Yeah. Never heard of it, sis.
All right, well, I didn't have nothing highlighted on 709, honestly, because I don't highlight a bunch of numerical statistics because they're all different now.
Absolutely. But I just want to point out on 709, he does expound on youth credit unions.
Now, I thought that was dope right here, the youth credit union. Yes, I said every state need one of these. Why they don't got one of these in Atlanta? All these black people out here. That is dope.
Yes. So Sister Alima, can you explain to them just really briefly, like what a youth credit union is?
So the youth credit union, family, in essence, it's the same template as a regular credit union. It's just literally ran and opened by the youth. So the youth are the ones who deposit the money in it. The youth take the money out. The youth run it. They own it. It's all about them, and it's all about teaching them financial responsibility at a young age. And I think if a lot of us had that at a young age, we wouldn't have made as many financial mistakes as we did. Like, I remember that was one of the first things my mother did when we was really young. I was 10. I had a checking account with like $5,000 in it. I didn't understand at that time the importance of what she was really doing, but she was setting us up, teaching us economic responsibility as little kids. And it's important that we teach our children that. And there's quite a few, family. They said there was the D. Edward Wells Federal Credit Union in Massachusetts. Let's see, where's some other ones? There's the Northwest Baptist Federal Credit Union in Seattle, Washington. There was the Youth Credit Union, Central Brooklyn Youth Credit Union in Brooklyn. Like, this is amazing.
It was.
I was just like, wow, I've never heard of such, because I would love to get my son an account at a youth credit union.
I thought about that too.
We got some in Harlem, family, some in Hempstead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going more into it. When I was reading, I wrote down to make myself a note to look more into it, to see if number one, if any of these are still around, and do you necessarily have to bank? Do you have to live in the state to get an account?
Yeah, because that would be awesome, sis. And like you said, it's owned and operated by the youth. That's beautiful. And I wish we did have something here like that in Baltimore. You know. Yeah. I wish we had something here in Baltimore. So anyway, family, we're moving on to page 710. At the bottom, he says that a number of inner city neighborhoods, presumably abandoned or underserved by banks, and traumatized by social disruptions, such as urban riots, are establishing credit unions to service their population. At the bottom of the paragraph, it says the credit union offers savings accounts, loans, and other financial services to neighborhood individuals, churches, and businesses. So I guess if it's a youth credit union in those areas, we would probably have to live there.
Yeah,
in order to get an account. The services to neighborhood individuals, churches, and businesses. The next section, it says types of credit unions. So Dr. Amos Wilson tells us that there are two types of credit unions. The first is a federally or state chartered credit union, like those operated by churches, unions, and membership organizations of various types for the sole benefit of their depositors, more commonly referred to as shareholders.
Right.
This type of credit union, an organization more in line with our interests herein, is called the Community Development Credit Union. And this is what Sister Alima talked about earlier when she opened up. He says the following cursory description of federal credit unions is taken from a publication titled Federal Credit Unions, published by the National Credit Union Administration, NCUA. And this was published in September 1988. According to the NCUA, a federal credit union is a member-owned cooperation organized to promote thrift among its members and to make loans to its members from these accumulated savings. Credit unions are a more than $200 billion industry that provides a wide array of financial services to a highly diverse array of customers. All right, moving on. I want to skip this line because, like Sister Alima said, a lot of this stuff, these numbers are old. It says the principal purpose of a credit union is to encourage and support its members to accumulate savings out of their income as a means of building economic security for themselves and their families. Credit unions provide their members with essentially the same array of services as do commercial and savings and loan banks. Moreover, share accounts in federal credit unions are insured up to $100,000 per account by NCUA, whereas with this, each account is insured up to $250,000 by the FDIC. All right. Furthermore, credit union savings are further protected through a number of federal regulations and standard bylaws, which include the requirements that I don't want to keep saying UNCLA, but anyway, NCUA, federal credit unions. All right. So one, it says all persons handling and having custody of credit union funds must be bonded. So the people there must be bonded. Two, the affairs of the credit union and the records of the treasurer are audited by a supervisory committee. Three, The Federal Credit Union Act and bylaws provide for the setting aside of a reserve for uncollectible loans. 4, the surplus funds of the credit union may be invested only in specified investments. 5, all federal credit unions are supervised and are periodically examined by the National Credit Union Administration. So he goes on to say federal credit unions that are members of strong organizations such as the Community Service Credit Union Council, Credit Union Service Organizations, the World Council of Credit Unions, and the Credit Union National Association permit individual credit unions to offer a broad variety of operational and financial services. All right, so then he gets into what an operational service and a financial service is. I'm not going to read everything, but operational services would be like credit and debit card services, check cashing, wire transfers, ATM, electronic funds, accounting services, collateral, sale, leasing, sort of things like that. Okay? Financial services would be, financial planning, counseling, retirement counseling, and investment advice, security brokerage, estate planning, income tax preparation. Those will be considered financial services. At the top of page 713, he provides us with a list of credit union products and services analyzed by CUNA. All right, I'm going to show you guys this. If you don't have the book, you can rewind this talk back and just pause it if you're interested in checking out this particular table. But he just lists, the credit union products and services, personal loans, vehicle loans, mortgage loans, miscellaneous loans, savings, ATM cards, and miscellaneous services, okay? All right. I'm at the bottom of 713. Can someone take it from there?
713. According to NCUA, membership in a federal credit union is limited to those groups or persons with a common bond of employment, associations, or residence as specified in its charter. The most pertinent aspect of credit unions is control for African Americans is control and management. On the 714, control of management is in the hands of the members of the credit union. A volunteer board of directors is elected at the annual meeting of members. Each member has one vote, regardless of the number of shares owned. Each depositor is a shareholder in the union. The organization is completely owned and operated by its members. In other words, a credit union is a democratic bank where members pool their savings, and make loans to each other. A credit union may be opened with little or no initial equity. That is, organizers who wish to found a credit union are not required to meet minimal capital requirements. More important for economic well-being and development is the fact that through credit unions, thousands of poor people are making deposits in saving accounts, opening and using checking accounts, and submitting loan applications that traditional bankers would only throw in the wastebasket. New Jersey's first credit union. New Jersey's first credit union, First Baptist Church on High Street in Cranford, New Jersey, is a true credit union pioneer. In March 94, the church celebrated their 50th anniversary of the founding of its credit union, established under the patronage of late Reverend Benjamin W.P. Allen. First Baptist Credit Union is the oldest such institution in New Jersey. During the Great Depression and World War II, Allen helped organize food and coal clubs. With bulk purchasing, members could heat their homes and feed their families at a minimum cost. However, the paper notes that perhaps his greatest contribution to the church started July 31st, 44, when the church credit union ever chartered by the state of New Jersey opened. Allen was instrumental in helping other churches start credit unions. One of them, the St. James AME Church in Newark, has the largest church credit union in the state. First Baptist owned 189-member credit union has assets of more than $396,000. And you know what, Queen? There's only 189. And I listened to you talk about this pastor that has 5,000 members. And I noticed that a couple other of these banks, they only had 400 members, 500 something members, 600 members. It's a handful of people. And when you talk about these mega churches that have 5, 10, 15,000 members, and you don't have your own freaking bank, it's like, what are you really doing?
What are you doing? Who are you doing?
That you're just concerned about making money for yourself. Because if you're really concerned about your community, you have the power to do so right at your fingertips, literally.
Fingertips. And essentially,
everything the pastor recommends, like he says,
it's more than making money.
Stronghold, and they can they can really gear, like you said last week, Queen. They can lead their people to where they need to be. So if we need more investments in the community, or we want them to invest more in Black-owned banks, the pastors are the ones who have that power to convince their members that this is what we need to do, and they will listen.
And they will listen. Absolutely, they absolutely will. I remember Dr. Walter Scott Thomas, and you guys could probably Google this on. You guys could probably Google this. At one point in time, they were located in Baltimore City, and this was a few years back, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. They were in Baltimore City on Frederick Road, and again, he had 5,000 members, and he said, "Look, I want a new church, and I want a church that's closer to the county because he lives in Baltimore County. Mm-hmm. He wanted a church that was closer to the county, and so they pulled together their money, sis, and they saved, and now he has a mega church." Right off of Northern Parkway, right near the county line. So, when he wanted a church, a mega church, he was able to convince them to put their money, to save their money and continue to give money to this building fund. And now they have a mega church. So again,
who was the one that wanted that airplane, wanted a jet or something, and then the members got the money for him? Who was it, Queen? Do you remember that?
Was that Creflo Dollar?
Creflo Dollar? Did he get that jet?
One of them. It was one of them.
Was Creflo Chaos? Was it Creflo
Dollar? Good old Creflo Dollar. I wonder if he ever got that jet.
Look at that.
Well, you know what I'm saying? This man said, "I want a jet."
He got a jet and a spaceship.
The money together, like they were really like pastors have a lot of power, and they have the power to change a lot. A lot of the people who live in those poor communities go to the churches.
Yeah, because they sell hope, sis.
That's right.
He said
people.
He talked about the jet. He said people was talking to him saying, "Hey, why you need a jet? Blah blah blah." He said, "I want a jet and a spaceship." He said, "I'm gonna preach the word of God. If I need to go to Mars, I need to go to Mars to preach the word of God." He meant what he said. Wow. He said what he meant. I did some research on that. I did some
remember now. Remember knowledge. People are sheep, and what you do with a sheep, you send to the slaughterhouse. So if I say I need this, you're gonna give me this without no doubt, no question, no argument. You might ask me a question, I give you an answer, and you will gladly give me your 10%. Matter of fact, to get a jet, you're gonna have to require more than 10%. You know how our sisters are; they give more than 10% to the church. So he eventually got his jet. I tell you that much. But it goes back to again selflessness. And what's the purpose of even getting into the business of preaching the word of God? Are you in it just to help the people, or are you in it just to fill your nice little pockets? Mm-hmm. It's one or the other. Because with all that money, we could be having these banks rate, these credit unions. Right. There should be no excuse. Absolutely. Anytime when we hear about the excuse, that tells you people are deflected, and really you just want to continue to be subjugated by another rate. Right. Let's continue.
I know that's right, brother. Where we at now? Community development credit unions?
Yeah, we're at the top of
One of the brothers want to kick it off, brothers. We ain't heard from you. Y'all want to read?
I wanted to add a quick point before we moved on. I looked up that bank that was in Seattle, that First Baptist Credit Union in Seattle. They merged with another bank, so they got swallowed up by a larger credit union. The one you was talking about with the youth bank.
Yeah.
So they let me just look at this real quick.
Are they still a youth bank specifically though, brother?
They still offer the services, but it's under the guise of another merger. So they merged with another bank called Seattle Metropolitan Credit Union. Like they that Northwest Baptist Federal Credit Union was around for 58 years, and in 2015 they merged with this other credit union. It was another nonprofit, but based off its location, it didn't have nothing to do with Black people. You see what I'm saying? So if it was downtown Seattle, so they got swallowed up by this larger credit union, and they had 43,000 members and $650 million institution. So this thing that's supposed to be nonprofit is $650 million institution. You see what I'm saying? So you already know who they was going to help and who they lending and rendering their services to first. You see what I'm saying? And this is an international community, so there are people from around the planet that are coming through because this is a port city.
Exactly.
Seattle with the port.
Mhm.
So you got this international connection. So it's not benefiting any of us within our. So that's how you have something that you start, and then it gets sucked up by something larger, and now the focus and attention has gone and left who was it intended for in the first place.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay. I was wondering, which section you guys are on now?
715.
15.
Community.
Which part you want?
Development Credit Union. I will read. Let me get close to the mic. All right, community development credit unions in line with regular credits unions offer credit and financial service that are very often scarcely available to our affordable for a very large number of low-income individuals and families. Just like regular credit unions, they make credit and service available with minimal from government philanthropy organizations or other outside sources of assistance. Communities developed credit unions play a role quite distinct from the regular federal credit union, as well as from traditional banks, things, and analysts and community development credit unions specialists. 1991, it meant that credit unions are different from banks. Other credit unions offer community development organizations and even other community financial institutions, such as loans, funds, or development banks in at least two important ways. One, primary members of a community development credit union, and precisely those who are likely to be served by standard banks and credit unions. And the financial service needed by their members may be different from these offered by other financial institutions. Number two, the community development credit union is primarily designed to promote local community development through leading activities, a mission they share with the other developments financial institutions such as loans, funds, and development banks. However, unlike other developments, leaders, community development credit unions, specialists, and small loans made directly to people, home buyers, and improve students, workers, and small business people. Tolum and Puggy, 1991, further indicate that as of 1990, there were some of 300, that's 300 of these credit unions in 40 states and approximately, next page, 70% were located in inner cities, communities, and large metropolitan areas. National Federation and Community Development Credit Unions, NFCDCU, while most CDCU serve their local areas, credit unions may serve a particular group
Is he breaking up or
in
is he just
several communities. And furthermore, as
He's breaking up.
Lynn and Poggy,
He's
is he
breaking
breaking
Yeah.
Okay, hold on, Chaos, brother Chaos. Hold on, King. You're breaking up very badly, and you sound really choppy. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but it just like if initially everything.
Is that broke up just now or just on the next page?
No, now you sound fine, but you were initially breaking up. So can you reread that?
All right, so let me reread that. All right. While most CDCU serve their local areas, many associational credit unions may serve a particular group in several communities. Furthermore, as Tolan and Puggy contend, community development credit unions are committed to the development of community control and leadership, control over the credit unions itself, and through the credit unions over the economic resource of the community. Credit unions enhance the development of a sense of social interest, social responsibility, and reliability as they encourage savings through regular deposits of payroll deductions. By providing accounts served to a people who may not have had them before, by providing financial management responsibilities in their staffers, volunteers, interest members, and trainees, by clients with structured credit facilities and valuable know-how. Credit unions help hiring people into a familiarize them with the financial mainstream, enhancing their ability to qualify loans and their financial service.
So check this out.
Leading for more for housing than other purpose. Many CDC
Brother Chaos.
Business loans. These loans may a small entrepreneurial.
Brother Chaos.
Let me repeat that.
Hold on one second, Brother Chaos, because I was trying to stop you.
Okay. Tell when I sound clear. I sound better?
Yeah, no, I wanted to stop you really.
Yeah. Chaos was getting down.
In your own zone. I think you were in your zone and you didn't hear, so you were just reading. I was trying to stop you because I just wanted the people who are listening to the discussion to understand that a community development credit union, they're basically an example of community self-help. Exactly. So they don't rely. I just want to drive home the point that the biggest difference between a community development credit union and a traditional credit union is that they don't get any outside help or any outside help from the federal, from the feds, from the state, or from philanthropists. The funds. I mean, this is truly an example of people in the community putting their money, depositing their money into a financial institution. In circulating those funds, in making loans, loans being given out to the people who belong to that bank. So this is really a good example of community self-help. Okay, and I just kind of wanted to drive that home. I also wanted to emphasize a point that Dr. Amos Wilson made at the top of page 716. He says, while most CDUC, so while most community development credit unions serve their local area, he says many associational credit unions may serve a particular group in several communities. And that was emphasized, family, okay? So again, he says, while most CDCUs serve their local area, many associational credit unions may serve a particular group in several communities. You know who came to mind, Brother Travis, when I read this line? I was thinking about the Jews. I thought about Asians. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So I wanted to emphasize that, Brother Chaos, and you kind of went on. But it says, while lending far more for housing than other purposes, many CDCUs make small business loans. Okay, so a CDCU typically lends money for housing because remember, their whole objective is to develop the community, and they do that through housing. Okay. The buying of housing, the buying of real estate in a particular community. However, it says that they also make small business loans. These loans may be made to small entrepreneurs or self-employed members, are structured along the lines of a bank-based consumer loan. So at the bottom, he says that there are three primary sources for credit union deposits: individual members, organizational members, and for CDCUs, non-members. Non-member deposits are usually available only to federally chartered credit unions and some state chartered credit unions that meet certain specified standards. It's important to note that the foundations can place non-member deposits in CDCUs. Now, see, that's kind of interesting, Sister Alima. So with traditional credit unions, you had to live in an area or belong to like the same organization, right, in order to get an account there. But they're saying with CDCUs that you don't even have to be a member to deposit money.
Right.
Wow. I mean, okay. You don't even have to be a member. Okay. So it says such deposits can provide CDCUs.
Who would do that though, Queen?
You said who would? Yeah, who do deposit money?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't want to join. I just want you to hold my money. Like what?
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know. I just okay. But it says, you know, he says in one breath that they don't receive money from philanthropists or the feds, you know, the federal government or the state. But if you accept money from non-members, I could be a philanthropist.
I could
just put my money in, you know, in your financial institution. I could. So, you know, I'm just wondering how they deal with something like that. But anyway, he says such deposits can provide CDCUs with very sizable support for new community development initiatives, with substantial deposits at below market interest rates, and with deposits that can serve as collateral for specific community development loans to other organizations and or individuals. Tholen and Podge, I don't know if I'm pronouncing their names correctly, in 1991 suggest that non-member deposits can be made to support early operations of a new credit union, to start new programs such as credit counseling or development lending lending to fund needed capital expenditures or to build reserves. Grant support could enable additional staffing for a community organizer, a community development officer, or a community financial coordinator. So they're saying that they don't accept stuff, you know, loans, money from philanthropists, but it seems to me that if it's a non-member and they're depositing this money, I don't know. Anyway, he says that. So anyway, now he goes on to the type of support that the banks, churches, and state governments can give to CDCUs. And he's saying that traditional banks, that they may want to support or provide support to community development credit unions, because remember, at the end of the day, they want to satisfy their Community Reinvestment Act requirements. Remember, there was this law that was passed in 1977 that was created to ensure that banks were reinvesting in the community. So one way they can satisfy that Community Reinvestment Act is to provide support to CDCUs. So Dr. Amos Wilson tells us that they can provide either financial support to CDCUs, or they can like donate property or equipment or even services to these CDCUs. At the bottom, he talks about churches and how churches can play a crucial role in assisting in the development of CDCUs by utilizing their institutional resources. He says influence with banks and other financial institutions, political influence, organizing community efforts, and by encouraging their members to support CDCUs. He also says that state and local governments can also contribute to CDCUs. He said it in a variety of ways. One way he said is to place a portion of their public deposits generated from taxes and fees with credit unions. Okay, so he talked about that. And he closes the sections by saying that states and cities should be encouraged to design public deposit programs targeted to CDCUs as a way of supporting their community development mission. All right, so Sister Alima, can you take it from here, sis? The Community Development Corporation.
Hold on, Queen, I'm coming.
All right.
You said which one? Where we at? I'm sorry.
Community Development Corporation. Top of our page.
I started at the bottom.
Okay.
Schemes for Community Development Corporation, CDCs, propose expanding economic educational opportunities through the purchase and management of properties and businesses. 2, improving the health, safety, and living conditions through CDC-sponsored health centers, housing projects, and so on. 3, enhancing personal dignity and independence through the expansion of opportunities for meaningful decision-making and self-determination. And 4, at the discretion of the corporation, using its profits to pay a community dividend rather than a return to stockholders. The relation between CDC-sponsored businesses and privately owned ones is hard to delineate satisfactorily. Caution is advised here as well in regard to prior reviews. To the extent that a CDC is not self-sustaining, i.e. supported or financed substantially by the community, that is, by both the local and ethnic community as a national or regional whole, to the extent that it is dependent on financing from large corporations, foundations, and government agencies, it may be mortally crippled or destroyed by their withdrawal of support. Due to the relatively weak internal inner-city markets, poor public service, high levels of antisocial behavior, persistent drain of resources from the inner city, which retards the large accumulation of capital, the CDC may judiciously invest some portions of its capital in other investment instruments outside the immediate community. This may require some ethical investment in major corporations, government bonds, retail, wholesale outlets in downtown areas and shopping malls where the vast majority of the inner city and urban working blacks spend their working day as well as their earnings. However, special care must be taken that outside investment activities not lead to the neglect of local development.
So let me ask you a question, sis. I just want to make sure I'm clear on understanding what a community development corporation is. So a CDC is basically a corporation that they make investments in other companies, right? So it may be stock, it may be, stock, it may be, real estate, it may be, I don't know, an account that collects interest, and they take those profits, or they're supposed to take those profits and put them in its community, right? That's how it works.
And so in essence, it's like it's a corporation, and their goal is so they can get their members of a community and then help them develop their community economically with different resources. So basically, it's like they come through to help boost communities, like it's a community booster. They said the CDC strives to expand economic and social opportunity, help establish community stability and self-determination. Right. They said the CDC may be funded by the feds. The CDC more truly is a community corporation. It's financed through stocks and bonds sold in the local community, blah, blah, blah. So yes, the CDC operates in many ways as an ordinary stock company. Through the CDC, the community may purchase retail and other properties owned. So it's kind of like, it's interesting. It's like, yeah, okay. So the community development project, it's like you can purchase different businesses. It is like the stock market is what it sounds like, the way they're explaining it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's ordinary stock market way. So it's like you can buy in.
Almost like a venture capitalist almost.
Right.
It does sound like, I'm like, do I have it? I just wanted to make sure I understood what they were doing.
Yeah, in essence, that's what it sounds like, venture capitalist, which is what we're going to get into. But in essence, yes.
Okay, so it's a corporation where you can the members can buy in and get in on different projects and businesses and own different things. And
the essence is basically so that you can own the resources in your community. So that's the goal, so that the members of the community actually own the community.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, sis. I just wanted to make sure I had an understanding of it, because my understanding was yeah. Okay.
Venture capital family, we're at the bottom of 719. 2 more pages left. I didn't have anything on 719. I started on 720 because I thought it was just reiteration. Unless you wanted to touch on something, sis.
No, you're right. It's something he mentioned, like in previous chapters, he was talking about our economy, and he said, it's like a third world economy because we don't control any of our internal markets.
Exactly.
We control of our internal markets, and then all of the money from the community, most of the money of the community is being taken outside of the community or spent outside of the community instead of inside of the community. So he said we function like a third world country in a sense, and he talked about that in one of the earliest chapters. So, sis, no, you don't have to get into that at all. That's just, reiteration.
Okay, so 720, middle of the paragraph. There are a few African-American business associations and businesses organized to strategically and tactically expand into and successfully penetrate the marketplace of other communities or to pioneer and develop new markets. But above all, the central problem faced by African-American entrepreneurialism is undercapitalization, i.e. relative inaccessibility, or more simply, the meagerness of absence of money, capital, and capital resources. Of course, we know that the African-American community is perceived to be high risk. So consequently, Black enterprises or would-be enterprises are caught in a vicious cycle. They are considered high-risk investments because they are generally undercapitalized, and they are undercapitalized because they are considered high risk. So it's like a catch-22. Many nations now considered economically mature, secure, and advanced passed through the stage where investing in their enterprise was also considered very risky or high risk. Take the U.S., for instance. During early development, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, I clearly remember learning in school that the Brits didn't want to give them no money like that. They felt that they were reckless. They said that they were young, that they moved too prematurely. They didn't want to invest in them like that. So, which also shows you why they turned to stuff like slavery and stuff like that, because they're like, we got to get this bread. Any means. But anyway, generally, 2 approaches to such a situation are used. The organization of investments so as to spread and or reduce risk, e.g. partnerships, corporate investment, government subsidies and guarantees, and the organization of funds which are willing to invest capital in uncertain business situations in spite of the relatively high risk involved. This does not imply that such investments are reckless or uncalculated. As we pointed out earlier, it was the venture capital investments by European financiers, cartels, stock companies, merchant banks, firms, and the like in fledgling American enterprises which helped to substantially finance and organize the economic growth and development of the U.S. economy in general. Financial commitment by venture capitalists, very wealthy individuals or families, venture capital funds, and organizations is key to building African American and Pan-African business organizations to the point where they can gain competitive advantage in a number of business or industrial fields. Some venture capital funds already operate in the Black community in the form of microloan funds. Some community development corporations, Commonwealth, and foundation funds, government-backed agencies, SBAs, small business administrations, and minority enterprise small business investment companies, MESBICs, which are functionally designed to supply equity finance and long-term debt finance, may be in effect considered venture capital funds or organizations. Some corporations also provide venture capital resources to Black or minority business. For example, Bankers Trust of New York City. Organizations with no strings tied to governments and non-Black financiers are ultimately the most effective organizations for financing and supporting Black enterprises. Black-owned venture capital funds should be able to exhibit a deeper and more functional understanding of the problems and needs of Black enterprises. So what Baba is saying is that we do have the ability to get, to deal with these government-backed agencies, of course, but he's saying that it's best to deal exclusively basically with Black people and those who understand the condition of the community and the condition of the people and want to better it.
That's right. That's right.
So, the old word for venture capitalist is called mobster.
Right.
That's what we used to know them as. You see what I'm saying? So, and the underworld took care of the community in every sense of the word. So,
I think the community respected the underworld always.
Right.
And the Italians love the mafia. The Italian people love the mafia.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because they was responsible for atoning through what they did in the community. Oh, we need this school, or we need this, blah, blah, blah. We need that, blah, blah. You see what I'm saying? So, our functionality, even within our communities, used to be like that prior to 1970.
Mm-hmm.
So just for instance, during Prohibition, the sale of alcohol was illegal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's legal. It's still the same. It has the same effects. It works with the same danger. Now it's legal. Gambling was illegal. Now it's legal. You understand what I'm saying? As long as you got this government stamp of approval. So nothing.
Talk about weed. Weed was once illegal. I got locked up for it. Weed was illegal. You know what I'm saying? But now it's legal. You can grow your own weed. You just got to pay the government $25,000 to get a license.
And prostitution was illegal at one point. There's places in the U.S. right now.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, I know you got locked up for weed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's legal now. Isn't that something? It's legal now.
I thought you said we was illegal. I was about to say, yeah, we still illegal.
I said weed was illegal. Marijuana was illegal.
I thought you said we. Yeah, I agree with we. We still illegal. You could get locked up for being you. Like,
about that. But it's just like, it's anything that they can't regulate, or capitalize off is illegal. That's just bottom line.
Very true.
Right. Yeah. So I was seeking to make a little small point in regards to the venture capitalists. The venture capitalists, in regards to how this is beneficial to us, is based off of that same concept. The reason why they got Korean nail shops is because they got a Korean mafia. You see what I'm saying? So in regards to this resurgence, where we got everybody running around shaking their fists in a revolutionary type of stance, of what's more revolutionary than taking care of your communities and taking care of your families. So where's some of that by any means necessary energy in regards to that? You see what I'm saying?
And knowledge. And everybody has their own form of little mafia, but Black people, we have no structure mafia.
No, we
for
don't.
our interests.
No.
So
We
obviously, when
we used to.
while we see ourselves in the position we're at, it's because we're not really about that bout by any
That's
means necessary.
that's not true. We have a long history of we about that bout. We always fought. We always fought. Like when they found out that a church is a meeting place, it used to be just a meeting place, a place to go plan and strategize. It wasn't anything about fellowshipping or anything like that. So they still run the agendas to our community, to our people through the churches. They just found a way to capitalize off of that. You see what I'm saying? So whether it's one of those bastards running around talking about they got hot sauce in their purse and they pandering and they hugging on, black preachers and all of this stuff and crying and trying to hold black babies and getting rejected. You see what I'm saying? They push the agenda to where the large place of a focal point is. You know, you had the Deacons for Defense and Justice that came out of the black church. Now today, you look at the black church, they're not doing the same things because there's a disconnect. You see what I'm saying? So you have to think about that in terms of focus. Again, like the examples that was brought up earlier about the credit unions being built out of these mega churches. They have an easier advantage or leverage based off their tax exempt status to do a lot of things in the community. But what is the community requiring them to do? You see what I'm saying? Where's this level of accountability? Like, we're bringing all this money here every
There you go.
Sunday.
No
We need you to
accountability.
be doing this.
There
You see
you
what I'm
go.
saying?
There you
So
go.
now
There's
we're
no
looking
accountability.
now we're looking at a underworld situation where you better do this if you want us to continue to come in here and bring
There
these
you go.
dollars here.
There you
You see
go.
what I'm saying?
There you go.
So if we don't require anything, nobody has to do anything.
Well, you know what, family? When y'all say that, I have a question. How do members view taking care of a community that they don't live in? Because let me give you a prime example of the church that I used to go to, York Memorial. York Memorial was in what would be considered the ghetto, but 99.9% of its members live nowhere near the ghetto. So you see what I'm saying? So a lot of churches aren't necessarily, I guess what I'm trying to say is the members of the church might not necessarily live in that community. So how does that work?
It doesn't work.
Do they view it that, well, because our church is in this community, we should take care of this community? Like, how do you view that?
Yeah, that's a double view type of
A
situation.
little different.
Right, and it goes to show your intent. So if your intent here, to use this word loosely because it's Sunday, to use a word like salvation, if you're here for the salvation of the people, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? Because I know some churches that we grew up around and that were in the communities that were helping people get off drugs, helping people get jobs and things like that. They had that type of tie to the community. So it is a different dynamic when you're talking about they don't have any stake in the community.
They don't have it. They don't
because
have
none
that
of
connection.
right,
You know what I mean?
right, and none of their members are coming from that community.
Right. They don't come
That
from
whole dynamic could change if they did invest in the community solely for the purpose that their church exists there. You see what I'm saying? So that could be the difference between people from that community supporting and protecting that church based off of that
But y'all
allegiance.
tied it up. Y'all tied it in when you said is that, see, every Sunday it is the people who financing their oppression. Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Every
And
Sunday.
Saturday too.
That's right. And they're investing in their oppression. So they're buying that shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The preacher is that way is because the people are buying that. Good example was, remember the guy who said that everybody's going to heaven, even homosexuals, Carlton Pearson. Remember he had the Higher Dimension Church in Tulsa. When the people didn't approve of everybody's going to heaven, they took their money and that church closed down.
Ooh, I didn't know that, brother. I love it. I'm telling you.
Brother Travis always got the knowledge now.
Information. Brother Travis got the information. I did not know that.
Yeah, Higher Dimensions was a mega church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Carlton Pearson comes up under what's the guy? Oral Roberts University. He was backed by them. Oral Roberts declared him a heretic. The black people left the church, and that church went bankrupt.
So, like you said, it's really the people who are financing their own oppression Sunday after Sunday.
You buying that stuff? That's right. That's right. My mama complained about her church.
hear what you're talking about upstairs, downstairs. Just make sure
Mhm.
2 minutes in the sermon, you say, hey, everybody need to buy Meltrek right now. You understand? So you got to find a way to work it in. You see, there's some strategies I shared with some people off air in some places on how, you know, certain things could work. You see what I'm saying? So I use different kind of language here for people to understand. If you don't require anything from people, that they're not going to do anything for you.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So if you want these doors to stay open, this is what you're going to do. You know, some people might think, hey, you don't have the power to do it. Like, come on, I'll tell you. A couple of things have changed when some furniture start moving around. You see what I'm saying? You don't want those types of things to happen. You know, everybody wants to be safe and sound, you know. So we you know, when people ask you for things like we require you to be here and blah, 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 and things like that, they remember you can go to places where they can't go. You see what I'm saying? So that changes the whole dynamic, you know. So I'm gonna need for y'all to hold up these 2 DVDs and tell these people about Air Anime Productions and let the sister come in. Boom, 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 boom. Period. You see what I'm saying? Period. And that's how it spreads around. So if if you're in a community where you in tune with that and you don't do this every Sunday, we got you. You see what I'm saying? We're going to the next joint and the next joint. So, you know, just thinking about your area and your locale and your relationships to the people in the area, you can state requirements. You see what I'm saying? So you have to put that in there because, you know, that's how things function. You know, so the underworld need to be taking some visits to some places, to some people, and make offers they can't refuse.
Hey, look,
there you go.
Look, knowledgeable. And I'm thinking about PFK Boom.
Right.
And those brothers. They stepped at Jamal Bryant. They stepped to him.
They sure did.
Right.
They sure did.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's some people we know. Some of us know some of the same people, and hey, some word went out about some things. So it's ways to get things done. You know,
absolutely.
That old devil was on that movie Undisputed that played Columbo. He said, let me tell you how to get things done. He said, you do one or two things. He said, Meyer Lansky told him, he said, with people, either you help them or you hurt them. So he said, you know, there was a
good movie.
A commissioner who didn't like gambling, and they told him that they couldn't open these casinos up in Las Vegas. He said either he could choose to have a bunch of money deposited into his account or his car would explode. It was one or the other. You see what I'm saying? So this was the type of way that they got these things legitimized, and now it's like the most legit, you know, the industry where it looks the most legit and it's the most corrupt. You know, how many families are destroyed over gambling or addictions to alcohol, but they got government seals on them and they federally protected. You see what I'm saying? So we have to carve out a space where we could leverage based off of this influence that they want, and, you know, make sure our needs are being met until we're in a position to be self-sustaining.
Absolutely.
Dr. Maat, do you know P.F. Kebon? Do you know him?
Yes, I just talked to him a few days ago. Beautiful brother.
Yes, he is. He's
beautiful brother. He just when that incident happened with Tommy Sotomayor.
He beat him up. I heard he punched him.
Yeah, they were up there with me. No, he didn't punch him. Yeah. But we were there during that incident, and the brothers rolled up with me. They rolled up there with me because they didn't appreciate the disrespect that was going on. You know,
I don't like him.
With the whole Pharaoh and Seti situation, and so they were like, "Nah, if you go to New York, we going with you." And I said, okay, we got in the car, and we were like 2-3 cars deep. And those brothers escorted me to New York. They drove me there. They drove me back, and they stood around me the entire time I was there. While I was visiting, when I got on stage, I mean, those brothers were right there.
That's some righteous brothers.
Yeah, they are, and they really are about the community. Like, they genuinely care.
That's right.
They do. They absolutely do.
Have you been following Seti and the Nation of Islam, and him and Pharaoh? They're attacking the Nation of Islam viciously there right now.
I saw that beef, and I knew an apology was going to be issued, because when they went up against the Nation, I said something, you know, they're going to receive some threats. They're going to receive some pushback for doing that. And so I wasn't surprised when Pharaoh issued his apology, you know, to the Nation, because he said he started receiving death threats from different people, and He said the mother of his child received death threats. And so, he issued an apology and he wanted to squash the whole thing because you're not going to come up against the nation and don't receive any pushback.
You still got some old zealots in there that they got to realize that do the ride and die old school 80s style Nation of Islam members, because they wouldn't talk like that if it was the 80s. Trust me. Trust me.
No.
And y'all said we ain't got no mafia. Listen to y'all. We ain't got no mafia.
It would come out as
I already knew it.
But the key thing is we got him in every organization. We got him in every organization. You see what I'm saying? So it's the thing about the camera is the camera can fool you. You see what I'm saying? So it's people waiting for opportunities. It's a help or hurt type of situation. You see what I'm saying? So it's based off your intentions. So if you want to run around on the camera, that camera will get you in a situation where somebody coming to see you, coming to see, and everybody ain't coming to give you a hug. You see what I'm saying? So, being out there reckless, thinking you could disrespect, organizations and African women and stuff like that. Those days are numbered. You see what I'm saying? So, understand an institution that went toe to toe with the NYPD, with LAPD, unarmed, and they fought them
and the mafia
to the death,
and the mafia here in Detroit, and the Detroit mafia here in Detroit.
What?
So,
yes, and the Detroit Police Department. They got into a fight in the police in the courts with the police department. They arrested some brothers that was selling papers here. And they got into it, a verbal confrontation in the courtroom, and the whole brawl went out against the Detroit police, and they whooped the Detroit police ass right here in Detroit. Yes, ma'am.
They didn't think just like them young children in Baltimore. They ain't think when they was messing with them young children, they did what they did to Freddie Gray, that they was gonna be snatching asses out of police cars. You see what I'm saying? And you said our youth is lost. They ain't look lost to me.
They was coming.
They look found.
They were trying to put their hands on Ali. They were trying to put their hands on Ali, and they left Ali alone.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that ain't been said in like the movies that went on. They tried to put their hands on Ray Robinson. He had to put a lot of gangsters around him. It's a lot of stuff that's not being said in those movies. But yeah, they tried to put their hands on Ali.
I better go back and look and see who paid for Malcolm X's funeral. You understand?
Right. Nobody talks about that, though. No one talks about that.
Right.
Yep.
Goodness. All right, so we got about 6 more pages and we're done. All right.
I'm gonna be quiet because y'all know I've been getting into some.
Yeah, no, we good. I mean, I love the discourse. I love the synergy. But anyway, we're at the top of page 722. And Brother Travis, don't drop off once we end this broadcast, because I want to show you a presentation that I'm working on.
Okay, I want to take a look at it. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to show you some things. But anyway, so we're at the top of page 722. It says, we believe that a large enough variety of wealthy individuals. Now, I thought about the Jay-Z's. I thought about Jay-Z and the P. Diddy and Dr. Dre and Drake and these, celebrities that are worth, 100 mil plus, right? He says, we believe that a large enough variety of wealthy individuals in families. So we're talking your Oprah Winfrey's. Look at this. High profitable corporations and businesses, religious and secular organizations exist in the African-American community, which can combine their resources to form venture capital firms. I believe that Jay-Z, and if someone can Google it really fast, I believe that Jay-Z was talking about at one point opening a venture capital firm. He wanted to open up a firm that invested in, black, I don't want to say black entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs. And he did talk about that at one point. I don't know if he did it or if he's still in the mix, the midst of doing it, but he did talk about it. It says that such firms can be corporations and therefore be publicly traded in the over-the-counter market or owned by its shareholders. A Black-owned venture capital firm may back startup Black-owned companies. I'm sorry, family. Black-owned venture capital firm may back startup Black-owned companies that demonstrate promise in their market or some edge in a new technology or market. It may specialize in bringing to market Black-owned firms already established and profitable that have not yet issued stock. The venture capital company may provide consulting, make loans, and invest in the client company as a partner or in its securities. For both a private and public traded venture capital firm, it is the company's close links with an equity holdings in any number of other productive firms, which makes it a valuable asset or its stock valuable to shareholders and investment managers. Investing in a well-funded, well-diversified, smart venture capital firm is like owning an investment trust or type of mutual fund. Buying stock in or owning a top-notch venture capital company is like buying proxy ownership in the companies with which the venture capital company has entered into partnership. A good portion of those securities are owned by the company. Such ownership by a venture capital firm may give them a value beyond its assets. So he says right here, we do not mean to imply that investing in venture capital firms is guaranteed to be profitable or earn high returns or on investment. So he's giving you this disclaimer. He says the very fact that it is a venture, that's the key word, it is a venture capital firm, i.e. it specializes in relatively high risk investments, should disabuse us of that idea. However, like any other investment, return is predicated. Hold on, y'all, let me circle this. Return is predicated on any number of usual factors and conditions that influence the increasing and declining yields of a particular financial instrument or entity. The venture capital firm plays a very important role in advancing the development of fledgling enterprises and economies, and for that reason alone, should be developed by the African American community as a key instrument for funding its own enterprises and economic development. Let me say that again. The venture capital firm plays a very important role in advancing the development of fledgling enterprises and economies, and for that reason alone should be developed by the African American community as a key instrument for funding its own enterprises and economic development. So this goes back to what Sister Alima said earlier when he talked about how, you know, that he was saying that we believe, he says this on the bottom of page 721, he said that community-based and funded venture capital enterprises, organizations with no strings tied to governments, and non-Black financiers are ultimately the most effective organizations for financing and supporting Black enterprise. So he's talking about a self-help program right here, family, okay? Not getting other people to come in and assist you and help you with developing your community. He's saying you pull your resources together. And Brother Travis, we have more than enough resources to do so.
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of going back and forth about the buying power of Black people. I know that in the Nielsen's report says that Black people have, you know, the buying power of $1.2 trillion, but then you have brothers and sisters on YouTube who purport to be economists and financialists, and they're saying, oh, that number's not accurate because, you know, you gotta, you know, include this, that, and the third. But we have more than enough money, more than enough resources, more than enough income to develop our communities. I read an article a few years back that said that the Black churches combined since the 1980s reported an income, a collective income of over $400 billion, something like that. I know it was in the billions, okay? And I'm looking at this number, I think it was 400 or $420 billion since the 1980s. So we're looking at in a, you know, in 38 years, 30 some odd years, the Black church has accumulated 400 and some odd billion dollars. Surely, Brother Travis, we could have taken that money to develop. Surely that was enough money for us to utilize to develop our communities.
Absolutely.
That was enough, absolutely, you know, so we can do it regardless of if it's accurate or not, that we have the buying power of $1.2 trillion or not. We have more than enough resources, you know, human and non-human, right? Human and capital resources to build our own communities. Okay.
You know, I thought Boyce Watkins was going to be the one. I thought he was going to be the one. I got a lot of echo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody has their mic on mute. So let me put mine on mute.
Yeah, so I thought Boyce Watkins was going to be the one. He just had a certain, he had some conscious information that he was putting out there. He was a PhD, and he is a PhD in economics. I really had high hopes for him. You know, I'm not sure now. You know, I still think he's a brilliant brother, but I really thought that he was going to be that catalyst, you know, to set it off.
And what made you start having the low doubt on the brother?
It seems to I'm beginning to see a lot of individualism. You know, I'm beginning to see that, you know, his whole move is he articulates a lot of the black struggle, but it's overall his goal is to, you know, pump up a lot of the black, you know, information, but, you know, the undergird is, you know, his self-interest. You know, and there's nothing wrong with having a self-interest, because if it's mutual benefit, if somebody uses you, but it's mutual benefit, there's nothing wrong with being used. I guess, you know, a lot of times people say, well, what I was doing was, a lot of friends were telling me, is that I was putting too much in the Boyce Watkins' ass. I really thought that he was that catalyst. You know what I mean? He's just not that. His platform as an investor and businessman, I thought that he was more of, you know, he was about the finance, but I'm gonna take this and, you know, what like Dr. Maat was saying. I thought he would move in that direction like Dr. Maat is articulating. That's just not his move, you know.
Probably not now, but we'll see.
And I agree with Brother Travis. It doesn't seem to be, not in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Brother Travis.
Very gifted brother, though. Very gifted brother.
So do y'all think it would take somebody like a celebrity or something to kick something like this off in order for the people to be actually interested? Because that's what I think. I think it would take like
I hope not.
or Jay-Z
I hope
to
not.
try to start a Susu or
Most
something
definitely.
like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
but
would
we gotta
definitely
be
have
realistic.
to.
I'm at the point where I'm being realistic, brother.
Yes,
I don't want to witch anymore, because I see what it is, the reality and what it is. And I feel like somebody like Oprah or something like that say, look, we need to put our money together, black folks. We've been at the bottom too long. And niggas would come. I'm sorry, I need to stop using the word. Black people would come by the boatloads to put their money and invest with Oprah.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would.
To be honest with you, this is my take. No celebrity is gonna put in energy to really kick off anything in regards to black progress and cause. Because I concluded, once you take a sum of money from another race people, you're bought and sold. And anytime you go outside that, or if you try to go outside, we're gonna find all the nice dirt that are accumulating on you to bring you down, sabotage, and eventually take you out, slowly but surely. Hell, look at Bill Cosby. And much as they know Bill Cosby been doing this for some time, they wait for the right time, right moment to start. Let's say we can't liquidate you easy, so we're gonna just hit you with this thing that you've been doing for decades now, and eventually we're just gonna bleed you out. And that's what you're seeing right now. So they got some on a lot of these celebrities. You know, there's no way in hell you're gonna make all that money and be known without them getting somebody.
Farrakhan could pull it off. I think he could.
Yeah, I think he could too.
I feel my point. Farrakhan, once he has, you know, did his time, and, you know, let's say he transitions, I feel the nation is going to be even better. Until then, you know, it is what it is. You know?
Well, we have a bad habit of letting people go do what they want to and then come back to us. They leave and come back all the time. You see what I'm saying? So these are the ones who come with these ideas after they failed everywhere else. You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, you went from you got a cat went from celebrity apprentice to president. You understand? So these things are possible. You see? So right in that lane that you're talking about in regards to celebrity worship, these things do happen. You see what I'm saying? And they have always happened. So it does take a catalyst on that side. You see what I'm saying? Like you know, somebody like that now who would have the heart to do it. You see what I'm saying? Not heart in the way of sincerity, but the heart to step outside of the box. So somebody like a Jay-Z now, because after you make your money, you're not in a position of servitude anymore. You can use your mind. You can be audacious. You can be bold. You can be courageous.
And the reason
you see what I'm saying?
And piggybacking off what you're saying, Brother Knowledge, I remember when Jay-Z released the 444 album and everybody was acting like it was the economic blueprint. But my thing was, he was saying shit that Bobby Wilson, of course, we know said 20 years ago, and all the other people said 50 and 60 years ago. But it's like you're telling people stuff that they already know. Why don't you be the person to kick it off?
Right.
Like, do something real with your money. And I ain't trying to count nobody's money whatsoever. But when you put yourself in a position, number one, to where you make money off the people, and number two, to where you call yourself giving them advice, then lead by example.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. You have
There
to
isn't.
lead the people to what you say they need.
I agree with Sister Alima. I would love to see Jay-Z go back to Bed-Stuy, you know, where he's from in Brooklyn, and just revitalize that community. Put a school there, like you said, Sister Alima. You know, I'm not counting his money. I'm not saying that he's not out there, you know, because people say, Dr. Maat, you don't know what Jay-Z's doing with his money.
I mean, he's doing things, you know, I'm just saying.
Absolutely. But community development.
They were doing things in secret that they can now be vocal about in the public.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So they have to reach that point to where they have enough heart. You see what I'm saying? To be able to do it. So, you know, they were doing things. They were sending money. Like, you see the little part where he was bailing fathers out for Father's Day and stuff like that. Like, now you in the public eye to where you're not worried about any of these other things no more. What else can you say about it? He said everything about himself. You see what I'm saying?
I just feel like some of the things celebrities do, they just do it just to keep people's mouth shut and just to say like, hey, this is what I'm doing, so people can't say that I'm not doing anything. Because in my mind, when you really want to help people, and when you're in the position and you have millions and billions of dollars, then you would actually sit down with some economic development people and say, hey, what can I really do with all these multi-millions to help my community? Not go run down to Barbados and give a bunch of poor people some money that they don't know what the fuck to do with.
Thank you. And since that was my beef with that whole Drake, you know, that God's Plan video, remember people were online like, oh man, I really love the video. You know, it was great. You know, Drake was seen giving money out to folks. And then they said that he went to a homeless shelter. Now let's listen to this, family. Let's just think about this. Let's use our brains for just a minute. To a homeless shelter, sis, and he took the women in the shelter. He closed down a mall. He took the women in the shelter shopping, and then dropped their asses back off at the shelter. He went shopping and bought carts of toys and took it to the shelter. The same shelter is called Lotus Shelter in Miami. He took carts of toys there and gave those toys away to the children. Are you okay? All right. Gave those toys away to the children in the shelter. So this is what I'm thinking now. Let's backtrack, sis. This is a homeless shelter. So these people don't have a home. So instead of purchasing homes for these women and children, you took them shopping and you purchased toys. And you know what they did with the toys, family? And you can call me a hater all you want. They took those damn clothes from the mall and dragged that shit to the shelter. They took those toys, right, that he bought, and it went to a shelter. That is so what Drake essentially did was just make them feel good for the moment.
Feel better, but he didn't change anything.
He didn't change their condition.
I'm trying to change things in my people's lives. Like fuck making them feel better, because temporary happiness is just temporary. That's all it is. At the end of the day, I got brand new clothes, but I'm still in the same damn shelter, staring in bed with my kids. Like, come on.
With toys.
Keep them goddamn clothes. Can you get me a damn job? Do you have some connections to get me a good job? Someone who will give me a little bit of money so I can get me a place for my babies. You can keep some fucking toys. You can keep your shoes and all the other stuff. We got to get to the point where we actually care enough about each other, about each other's future, not just about each other's temporary. Like when you give $5 to a homeless person, like you shouldn't feel good about yourself because you're still homeless. You feel me? Like
that's right.
I don't know.
That's right. We gotta do more. We gotta do more. You know, we absolutely gotta do more. And so, you know, a lot of people were, you know, they were giving them kudos online and shout out to Drake and blase this, but not I. You know, I had to come with my message, and I was like, you know, and I didn't knock him. I said it was great. It was nice. What he did was nice. It was a nice gesture.
Yeah, it was a nice gesture.
But that, you know, other than that, it didn't change anything. And we got in our bar, sis, as a people, it seems like it's been set so low. You know what I mean?
It's extremely low.
Yeah.
So extremely low. Like a kid will be getting bullied at school, right, because of how he dresses or some shit like that. But instead of taking that out and talk to the kids about bullying, they'll go buy the kids some Jordans. So now he can fit in. But the ultimate problem is these kids are fucked up in the head. It shouldn't matter what he has on. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, sis.
That's right.
All right, y'all. So we're
to the point of the venture capitalism, something that was very key that you read, Dr. Ma, and you're a living example of it, is that, you know, these venture capitalists would serve as looking at a needs assessment, seeing things that are needed, and taking care of that need, satisfying that need. You see what I'm saying? So in regards to getting culture across to our future generation, what better product do we have than Meltrek? You see what I'm saying? That's out there in a way that, you see what I'm saying? So a venture capitalist group would see that and be like, oh, they doing good, but they could be doing great if they had X amount of dollars. You see what I'm saying? To be able to do what you see. So you have to have that mindset, you know, with the people who would have that capital to look at it in a way that was like, okay, Sister Alima have, or Abjuware or Pantherware, or looking at what they're currently doing and say, okay, so how can we make this increase? This is how you guarantee return on your investment based off of these types of analysis when you're looking. So now, what type of situation are we in? We're in a global economy. So are we looking to go global with Meltrek? Are we looking to go global with these products, or just survive basically, or even hit a break-even point with local? You see what I'm saying? So how can we distribute these products or these services that these brilliant African minds have produced around the world? You see, so you know what to do with it. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of mindset would have to be there with the people. It couldn't be a situation where you just thinking, I'm going to profit. You see what I'm saying? And
Right.
Most of these people, the decisions that they made and the investments that they made were not made from a space of where it was hard. It was a space off of doubling my money. So I was just doing it to flip it. You know, like y'all said, it sound like what did y'all call it earlier? It sounds like the stock market. It really sounds just like a dice game. It's a gamble, you know. It's really like an alleyway dice game. You see what I'm saying? And this is the mindset of individuality that's reduced within the dominant society of capitalism. They're not looking at people. They're looking at capital. You see what I'm saying? Something, or consumers, things to be brought and sold. You see what I'm saying? And that venture capitalist mindset would not, well, in our case, would have to be something that benefits the collective, that benefits us, you know, in the future, just like Sister Lehman was bringing up when you were bringing up Dr. Maat. So holistically, it would have to be something that would work for us long term, no short term.
Absolutely, Ken. Absolutely. So we're winding down, family. We have like 5 pages left. Bear with us. We winding down.
God, we got 5 pages.
Yeah, actually like 4.
Y'all a mess. You know that I ain't mess with y'all no more because y'all can't stay on damn chapters and stuff.
Blame it on knowledge coming in.
when you get great minds together, you know, Sister Alima, we can't just. It's just, you know how we are. We go off topic. We start bringing up stuff. Chaos start going off topic. So it's just. But anyway, so the business development company. It says the business development company. The venture capital approach we just described is similar to that of a lesser well-known approach to capitalizing small businesses, known as the business development company, or BDC. And I never heard of this. It says the BDC was created by Congress in 1980 to provide growth financing for small businesses. Unlike MESBICs and other small business financing vehicles overseen by the Small Business Administration, BDCs are regulated by the Securities Exchange Commission. This is the case because BDCs sell stock to the public. The funds these companies obtain from selling stock are used to invest in startup businesses and other small companies. There are approximately 50 BDCs now operating in the country. They own and manage assets of more than $2 billion and have helped to fund hundreds of small businesses. The investment portfolios of BDCs generally consist of stock in private firms or lightly traded public companies. At this time, this relatively little noticed and minimally regulated corner of the venture capital industry remains little understood and somewhat problematic relative to methods for accurately determining the value of a BDC's investment portfolio. However, the functional role of the BDC is worth investigating and perhaps founding as one of a number of possible ways to finance small business development in the African American community. All right, this is our last section, family. 4 pages, last section. Last section is entitled Black-Owned Venture Capital Funds in the Expansion of the African American Economy. As we have alluded to elsewhere, if we consider the African American economy to be essentially a third world economy, its development and achievement of parity for first world economies requires the investment of a relatively high level of high risk or venture capital. This means that large sums of money must be made available to create and expand Black-owned businesses. See, family, that's why I love this. I don't want to call this a show, this group, the RAM, the Resurgence of the African Mind Book Club, because this is why each week at the beginning of the show, we advertise Black-owned businesses. Because I think, Sister Alima, that you have on one hand people who aren't ready to, a lot of Black-owned businesses don't get a lot of support, because you have folks who either A, don't know about these Black-owned businesses, or B, not willing to break their spending habits. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
They're just comfortable. Some people are just comfortable going to Rite Aid and Walmart and Walgreens, and it's convenient. So I totally get it. It's convenient to just get your toilet paper up the street rather than order through Freedom Paper Company and wait 3-4 days for a shipment. You know what I mean? So, but this is why we advertise and promote Black-owned businesses, because we have to invest in our Black businesses. I remember this chart that Sister Alima put up from Dr. Amos Wilson's book, Dr. Amos Wilson's one of the chapters, where he talked about the maximization of Black resources. And at the top, he has your resource markets. And beneath your resource markets, you have your Black-owned businesses and your banks, right? So we gotta support our Black-owned businesses so that they can. It's all a circle. It's all a cipher. So anyway, this is why I love this group, because we talk about these things, and not only do we talk about it, we live it, and that's what I love about the members in this group. So we're not just talking about Black empowerment and support Black-owned businesses. All of us on this panel, support Black-owned businesses, and all of us are business owners on the panel. And so I love this group, and I just kind of wanted to express that. And I know this time I went off the deep end. So anyway, going back, this means that large sums of money must be made available to create and expand Black-owned businesses, right? We got to expand Black-owned businesses. Anyway, he says venture capital represents one of the major means by which funds are used by existing and new Black-owned companies to underwrite the development, production, or marketing of new products, services, and technologies by Black-owned companies. Such a new or expanding company may develop, innovate, produce, or market regular or new products and services using new or innovative technologies, or through creating economies of scale. An economy of scale exists when the per unit cost of production falls as the level of production increases. In a United States with a mature but dynamic economy, Black-owned companies or newly developed Black-owned corporate entities can help to substantially and rapidly expand a Black American economy through becoming involved in joint ventures, mergers, consolidations, acquisitions, and takeovers. A joint venture refers to a business partnership between independent companies, usually operating under the authority of a specially designated and compensated manager for the purpose of achieving a particular business objective or completing a business deal. A merger involves, so he's giving us different definitions. A merger involves the complete absorption of one business by another, where the acquiring business retains its name and identity after having acquired all the assets and liabilities of the acquired business. A consolidation is a merger where the acquiring company and the acquired firm both legally terminate their previous existence and become part of a new company, often operating under a new name. An acquisition may involve the purchase of a firm's voting stock by the acquiring firm in exchange for cash, shares of stocks, or other securities. An acquisition may also involve the acquiring of another firm by buying most or all of its assets. This is essentially the same as buying the company. Acquisitions may be further classified as horizontal, acquiring a firm in the same industry as the bidding firm, or vertical, acquiring a firm which produces goods and services pertinent to the production or marketing process of the acquiring firm, and a conglomerate, acquiring a firm in a business not related to that of the bidding firm. A takeover generally refers to the transference of control of a firm from one group of shareholders to another. Control in this instance may be defined as achieving a majority vote on the board of directors. So that paragraph was packed, y'all, with a lot of definitions.
Yes.
It was. I mean, he defined for us a joint venture. He defined for us a merger, a consolidation, an acquisition, right? And then he broke down the different types of acquisitions. So you got horizontal, vertical, conglomerate, and then he defined for us a takeover. So this was a powerful, very, very powerful paragraph. So anyway, by engaging in mergers, consolidations, acquisitions, joint ventures, alliances, takeovers, and the like, the Black business establishment can, one, acquire ongoing, already established, successful firms, thereby avoiding the more risky and often painful task of starting a business from scratch. Two, gain access to the know-how, technology, organization, talent, assets, contacts, and the like that are already operationally present in the acquired firm. Three, create virtual corporations by vertically and or horizontally integrating itself into an alliance with other companies whose productive output is complementary to their own in order to produce a finished product or service which neither company could have produced alone. Four, gain access to new markets and the means of distributing and marketing products which were not previously available. Five, create employment and training opportunities for Blacks at the various levels of business and trade which were previously restricted. Six, gain access to and knowledge of lending technologies and organizational techniques, as well as access to a talented, creative, and productive staff. Seven, enter into new industries previously closed to Blacks. Eight, speed the transfer of technology from the acquired or allied communities to other Black-owned companies to Africa and across the African diaspora. And nine, increase the wealth and power, and influence of Africans in the national and international economies of the world. So now he talks about the UNC Ventures, Black Venture Capital in Action. Sister Alima, can you speed through these 3 pages for me?
Bottom of the page, a joint venture. A joint venture refers to a business partnership between independent companies, usually operating under the authority of...
Oh, no, sis, we're at the top of 725, sis.
Oh. Of course, a number of Black-owned venture firms already exist and have measurably contributed to the growth of Black-owned businesses. One such firm is the UNC, which since 1971 has leveraged more than $1 billion in financing for minority and Black-owned businesses. Since opening its door in 1971, UNC has helped create or expand more than 50 businesses owned by minorities, ranging in size from 1 million to 100 million. Third venture capital fund, UNC Ventures 3 LP, which plans to raise 100 million. That's earmarked to develop at least 25 companies with annual sales ranging from 25 to 100 million. And UNC is located in Boston, family. Page 26. One of the businesses that benefited from UNC Ventures is the Boston Bank of Commerce, New England's only Black-owned bank. UNC stepped up and agreed to make an investment. The fact that they stood up helped us to go to other investors, says Ronald Homer, BBOC's chairman and CEO, who notes that the investment climate during those years made it virtually impossible for banks to attract investors. He's talking about during 1990 and 91, family. He's saying that the banks were struggling to survive at that time. Bottom of the page, Duggar likes to point to UNC's most successful company, EnviroTest Systems Corp. in Tucson, Arizona. UNC helped Black partners, Slivy Edmonds, and Chester Davenport put together $57 million financing to buy Hamilton Test Systems, a division of United Technologies that had $35 million in annual sales. It was number 11 on the 1994 B Industrial Service 100 list. So far, EnviroTest has won the 2 largest emissions testing contracts, New York and Pennsylvania. One of the owners says that when they went in at $16 a share, but their cost was 77 cents per share. So they made a huge return on their investment. UNC reports that between 1984 and 1993, 61% of its investments have been with Black entrepreneurs. It invested 33% of its funds in computer and electronics companies, 23% in communications, 9% in transportation, 9% in sales, 16% in a variety of other companies. UNC is developing a fund which will be largely dedicated to completing acquisitions in contrast to startups. Page 75, last paragraph. UNC and other Black-owned or controlled venture capital funds can contribute very significantly to the expansion and empowerment of an African-American and Pan-African economic system. However, to ensure that such expansion and pan-empowerment are steady, appropriate, and Black-controlled, the funding of Black-owned venture capital communities must increasingly draw their underwriting funds from Black-owned and controlled corporations, endowment and pension funds, and Black individual investors. Perhaps venture capital firms like UNC will help to develop the critical mass of Black corporate firms like UNC will help develop the critical mass of Black corporate, institutional, and private investors whose combined resources will markedly reduce the dependency of Black-owned venture capital concerns and brokers on white-owned corporations as their chief investment or only underwriting sources.
All right, sis. So we are finished, family. Join us back here next week to discuss chapter 28. Family, let me say something. Look at this. Look at this. Let me show you. This is how much of the book we have read. This is how much we need to read in order to complete the book. All right. So we're on next week. I'm excited. We will be discussing chapter 28, rotating credit associations, the prime importance of saving. I mean, sis, when I say that Baba gave us the blueprint for Black power.
Yes.
This is really the blueprint for Black power, teaching you about the banking system, teaching you about how to establish, community development banks, credit unions, encouraging us to pool our resources together for community development, rotating credit associations, right? He talks about the importance of saving. I mean, sis, anyway, join us back here next week, chapter 28, rotating credit associations, the prime importance of saving. We'll be talking about that. I want to see how long this chapter is. Oh my goodness, it's only 25 pages. So from 729 to 754. So good 25 pages. So look, family, we have 4 more chapters, 28, 29, 30, and 31. 4 more chapters to read. And Sister Alima, you said on the last day or the second to last session, you said you wanted to announce the book that we'll be delving into next, right? To give people enough time to secure it, right?
We already got it, remember?
Don't say it, Brother Travis. Don't say it, Brother Travis.
Travis has it, but I think you said we got 4 more chapters. So I guess, on the 3rd week, once we get to the second to last chapter, then we'll go ahead and let everybody know.
Okay, cool.
Maybe we'll take like a week off after we finish, give us a break, and then.
Oh yeah, definitely. I say a week or 2 because I want to at least read the first chapter of the book. Give people time to get it, read
right,
and stuff like that. So maybe we take 2 weeks off, and then we start the next. One
question, sisters, ladies, when did y'all start the reading of the Blueprint for Black Power? You remember the timetable?
Yeah,
August.
So within the month of April, that's this period of August. So that's like maybe 6-7 months.
Yeah.
May, June, July, August. Actually, 4 months. 4 months. So if it's 12 months, so we're looking at 8 months. Yeah.
7.
Yeah, I'm with Salima, 7 because we started the end of August. So you got September, October, November,
7.
December. Yeah, like 7. Yeah, we're like 7.
September, October. November, December,
It's 7, brother.
January, February.
He's right. It's
March.
7. We're 7 months in. 3 months in because we started the end of August. So you take it to the end of December. That's 4 months. The end of March.
Okay. So we look at 7.5 months. Yeah.
7 months.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're 7 months in, and so by the time we finish up, this will be probably, like you said, 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm pumped up. We're going to do it. We're going to get it done, and I'm very proud of everyone who stuck through it. People who were dedicated and stayed from chapter 1 to chapter 31. I appreciate those folks. Join us back here, same time, same place. Panel, do you have anything to say before we close out?
You said you was gonna show a presentation.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you, Brother Travis. I didn't forget. I was gonna play the outro, and then
Okay.
show you something that I'm working on.
Okay.
All right. So, do you guys have any last words for the viewers or for the listening audience?
No, good night.
All right. Sister Camille, we miss you, sis.
Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind. One of these days, and it won't be long. Resurgence of the African mind.
All right, family, peace and power.